Hey babes, what's up? So I decided that I would get on here today and kind of show you all what my techniques for note taking have kind of evolved to throughout the years. I was going to do a study with me video, but my study habits are kind of all over the place and hard to follow even for me. So I decided to do this instead. So before we get started, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. That way you get notifications whenever I post. Alright, so my note-taking habits have really changed throughout the years. So they went from handwritten only to typed only to both. So in high school I did handwritten only, and for the first part of college, like probably for the first half of my first semester, I did handwritten notes only. So those were just a basic outline, which I can kind of show you here. It was kind of set up like this, not by week, but that same kind of outline style. And that was a lot because I didn't have access to typing them in high school during class, and I wasn't really sure about using my computer in class for notes for the first part of my freshman year, and so I handwrote my notes. Unfortunately, because I didn't have access to those PowerPoints, I was having to try and keep up with what was going on the screen and what was going on in discussion, and my notes ended up kind of devolving into just a jumbled mess. I ended up not taking notes a lot of the time and just sitting and doodling while I listened, and that clearly, is not a great thing to do when you're trying to go back and study. So the spring semester of my freshman year, ended up buying a flash drive, which I have here is the flash drive I still use because it's like a 16 gigabyte flash drive. So I use that flash drive for my notes now, and I started using it freshman year to take notes in classes that it made sense to have my computer. So I would basically, same thing, it was still an outline, it was just typed up, so I could get what was on the PowerPoint typed, and I could type kind of stream of consciousness as the teacher was saying it. I could type what they were saying. So those became a little more clear, but it still wasn't really the best way for me to take notes. It was kind of out of sight, out of mind a lot of times with those notes. So I would type them up, but then I wouldn't have them in front of me. I would never print them off. I would always forget to pull them up when I would study, and it was just a mess. So I did my notes like that most of the time I've been in college. But this semester I'm doing something new, and so far it's seeming to work out well. So I started doing it. I was definitely doing it for my research methods class because it's one that we go over a lot of information all at once. My teacher doesn't give us her PowerPoints, so these are PowerPoint and discussion notes, but I feel like I do a pretty good job in that class of catching everything that's said that I feel like is important, because that's the other thing, is during discussions you never know what's important, so you kind of want to get all of it. But I think I've been doing a better job of kind of catching the important parts. So the way I take notes, I'm trying to find a good, I'll show you what I did for the first week, and then I'll show you what I did for the second week as far as my note taking. So this is technically my week 2 notes for research methods, but you can see I have it kind of color coded, so I have anything that I need a definition for highlighted in pink. I have anything that I'm kind of noting for my own personal use. Anything that she tells us that I think is important, but it's not part of the notes, it's as a side note, I'll highlight in orange. So you can see that. And then I also have in kind of green, I have highlighted things that stand out to me. So we were talking about how to select a research problem, and it's something that I planned on using, so I highlighted what stood out to me and how I wanted to go about selecting my research problem. So that was the first week of classes notes, which were great. They were perfectly fine, but I have since gotten a little more intense with my color coding. So pink is term and yellow is definition. Blue is an in-class exercise, and then, like I said, orange is just important. I'll show you this too. I also, at the end of the week, will put what the assignments are that's due for the weekend and when they're due, because my teacher gives us a little, like, glimpse at what's next, what's coming up. So that's how I do those notes. And for my other classes, it's very similar. For 2 of my classes, though, we do have access to the PowerPoint as well. So this teacher doesn't give us access to her PowerPoints. And I can't remember what her reasoning is. I think it's mostly she wants us to be actually engaged in class. And I think in her experience, when she gives us her PowerPoints, or when she's given students her PowerPoints, it's more of, well, I already have the notes, so why do I need to pay attention? Which is understandable. So for my other classes, and let's see if I have this notebook. Oh, I have one of these notebooks over here. Okay. So for my aging class, we have all of the PowerPoints. So I actually have a notebook for my other classes. I have a binder for research just because there's so much information. And I'll probably make another video on how I stay organized as far as that goes. But for aging, you can see I started using different colored pens. That's something I did last year to kind of keep organized. That's more for my planner than for my notebooks though. So I quickly changed that. But this week by week setup is something that I'm also doing different this year. So I'm trying to keep all of the notes from the same week together because it's usually all over the same information. So this is how I have it set up here. So during week 2 we got interrupted in the middle of class because of a power outage. So you can see this day is very short, and then I go into the next day. But it's very similar. So, but this is a class that I have the actual PowerPoint notes already. I have access to the PowerPoints. So when I have access to the PowerPoints, what I'll do is I will download the PowerPoint onto my flash drive, and I'll take and open a Word document and just type an outline of the PowerPoint. That way I have all of that relevant information that I can go print off later, and I have where I can go back if I've missed something in class, I can go back and see it. But I also have all of these discussion issues, or just not discussion issues. I saw the word issue in my notes, and so it came out of my mouth. This is where I have all of the discussion notes. So we talked about, right here, we talked about age and life expectancies. So we didn't have that in our PowerPoint. That was a supplemental resource that she gave us. And so we have a lot of really cool things in there. This was from this week, so this was from Tuesday. She had written on the board what we were going to be talking about. That was left over from our conversation the week prior. So I wrote those down. And yeah, so that's kind of how I set up those notes, and then I went ahead and set up this coming week's pages. And then I don't take notes when I read, but I do sit down with my notes while I'm reading, or I'll have the PowerPoint open while I'm reading, just to kind of keep me on track and just so I can see where those all line up. My other class that I have the PowerPoints available in is my counseling class. That one's a little bit different. I don't really get a lot of good notes out of it in my notebook, just because she moves so quickly, and we move through an entire PowerPoint in a day, and it's upwards of 30 to 40 slides in each PowerPoint. So pretty much all of my notes for counseling are on my computer, but I have my notebook if I need to jot stuff down. So as far as staying organized with my notes, I just use a regular ink pen. I think I was using like a Papermate pen. I have this pen. This is just one I've been using here in the house, but I have been using like this really nice black ink pen that I liked. That it was just a regular ballpoint pen. Actually, I got it at like a graduate school fair or something like that. But it ran out, so right now I'm using just a brown ink pen, and then I also use these Zebra Midliner highlighters that one of my friends gave to me that I super duper love, and that's how I keep everything color coded. So yeah.